All right, Dr. Cash, we're live.
Okay, thank you, and we welcome everybody to this meeting today, January 24th, 2025. I do want to start this meeting by reading a statement of necessity for our virtual. In accordance with TCA 8-4-108, this special called meeting of the Tennessee Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission is being held virtually via Microsoft Teams at 10 a.m. Central, January 10th, 2025. The necessity for this virtual meeting is due to the severe winter weather that's taking place across the state of Tennessee, which has impeded the travel for the majority of our commission members from attending in person. TCA 49-6 2201K allows the commission to call special called meetings when needed. In this case, the commission has called a special called meeting to discuss the start of the upcoming textbook adoption cycle and to hold various votes on time-sensitive matters as it pertains to the adoption cycle. Notice of this meeting was posted on the commission's website along with the agenda and a live streaming link for the public's access in accordance with TCA 8-44-101 and TCA 49-6-2201K. So we welcome everybody, and we'll start with introductions. I'm just going to start in the beginning. I'm Dr. Linda Cash, and I represent a superintendent for the Textbook Commission. If we could have Ms. Atkinson.
Good morning. I'm Becky Atkins. I represent public school librarians, and I was appointed by Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton.
Mr. Mike Bell is absent today. Could we have Mr. Bryan, please?
Hey, good morning. I'm William Bryan. I'm a high school teacher at Millington High School in West Tennessee, and I was appointed to the commission by Governor Lee.
Thank you. Ms. Katie Capshaw. Katie. We'll come back to Katie. Ms. Laura Cardoza-Moore.
Laurie Cardoza-Moore, appointed by Speaker Sexton to represent the parents and citizens of the state of Tennessee.
Dr. Rebecca Farley. Dr. Farley, are you on? Daniel Finch. Kevin, do you think they're on mute?
Dr. Farley is on mute at the moment. Can we go back to Dr. Farley?
Okay.
Ms. Farley, you're still muted. How about we go to Ms. Capshaw?
Okay.
She's muted too.
And Ms. Capshaw, you're muted.
Your mic should be showing at the top of the screen.
Ms. Capshaw, can you turn your mic on? Hello, Ms. Capshaw.
We'll come back. Dr. Hickey.
Yes, Catherine Hickey from East Tennessee, appointed by Speaker Sexton, representing East Tennessee.
I'm just checking to see
Thank
if anyone
you.
can hear me.
Dr. Cheryl Robertson.
I can't hear anyone else unless no one's talking.
Katie Capshaw is talking, if you can hear her.
Do you want me to
Okay.
let Katie go ahead first?
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't know if she can hear us.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go back, Dr. Robertson.
Okay. Cherry Robertson, representing Lebanon, Tennessee. I was appointed by Governor Lee.
And, and Dr. Christy Wall.
Good morning, Christy Wall, Assistant Commissioner for Academics and Instruction at the Tennessee Department of Education. I represent the Commissioner of Education this morning in the department.
Kevin, can you go into the chat and ask Christy and Daniel to introduce themselves?
Yes.
Linda? I thought Daniel wrote back that he had a court case today and he
Oh.
could not attend.
That may be correct. So it's just Katie. Thank you so much.
Katie Capshaw, librarian, Middle Tennessee. I can't hear anyone else.
Okay. Can we troubleshoot with Katie on her sound?
Josh, can you call her and see what might be going on there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. While Katie is working on her sound, I want to go ahead and just introduce the workshop and meeting agenda. Thank you for being here with us today. Our workshop items are the January 10th, 25 Commission meeting workshop agenda. And in number 3, we will address Schedule E of the CTE and Wellness Adoption Timeline date changes. And number 4, we'll schedule CTE Wellness and Intent to Bid submissions. And then Schedule E will be CTE and Wellness Advisory Panelist Review Selection Process and Application and Questions. 6 is Schedule E, CTE and Wellness Advisory Panelist Training. And 7, Library Appeals and Library Guidance Document Updates. So that will be our workshop agenda. From our workshop agenda, that's where we will ask questions and discuss. And still waiting on Katie.
So Katie is saying she still cannot hear us.
She may be able to get on her phone. Lee, can you call Katie and just see if she can hear us via your phone if you are utilizing your phone?
Yes, I'll do that right now.
Linda, I couldn't get in on my main computer and use my iPhone and it worked fine.
Okay. She may need to log in on her phone.
And I will say, if anybody is having problems, if we can't hear you, you can also utilize the chat. If you have any questions, if you can hear us, you can utilize the chat for that.
Okay, Katie is listening in on speaker from my phone.
Okay. All right. If she has struggles, would just let us know. So our workshop item 3, we've reviewed our workshop agenda items. We are now on 3, Schedule E, CTE and Wellness Adoption Timeline and Changes. And if you will look at your screen, Lee will show you the one change that is on the timeline, and we will wait for questions.
Okay, first off, at the top of the screen where it says PE and health science, that should be PE and health education. Health science is something different. So they have changed that to education. The March 13th meeting, we voted on that last time and checked schedules. It just needed to be changed on the agenda. So the next meeting will be March 13th. It will be at Davy Crockett at 10 a.m. And then down in the publisher schedule, February 7th and February 18th was changed due to the original ones falling on a weekend.
So you had 3 date changes,
Yes,
and
only
Katie
one.
can hear us now, so we're great. You had 3 date changes. You had our meeting date changed to March the 13th, and then you had your publishers changed to February 7th and February 18th. And those were
Yes.
for official notification of the invitation to bid, the virtual pre-bid conference, Section E, content writers and managers for publishers must attend, are expected to attend. Are there any questions about the changes in those dates? Okay, that is great. All right, hearing no questions, we'll go on to item number 4. And I will turn that over to Miss Lee Houston.
Okay, right now, these are the preliminary numbers for publishers who are bidding. PE and Wellness at this time has 6, Advanced Manufacturing has 15, and Information Technology has 5. Each of those cores have individual classes, and these numbers are only for the publishers that intend to bid. There's another few weeks, and they have until February 7th to do the official bidding. That's when that ends, but that is just the preliminary to give us an idea of what's coming in and who is coming so far.
Are there any questions related to the intent to bid that we have, in understanding that publishers have until February the 7th to go through the bid process? Hearing none, we'll look at our meeting agenda, Schedule 5. It is the Wellness and Advisory Panelist Review Selection Process and Application regarding questions in the scoring rubric. And I'll turn that over to Ms. Houston. Lee, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. These are the panelists that have turned in their applications to SCORE. And in that, we have the scoring rubric. The first 5 of the scoring rubrics will be, do you have that up, Hayden? Sorry, yes. Okay, will be scored by the commission. The first 5, one all the way down to describe exactly the ones you're seeing now, the first page. Those are the ones that the commission will score, and we will use the scoring that we've used in the past. You have 0 is the first column, 2 is the middle, 4 is the last, and you can go ahead and score a 1 or a 3 if they fall somewhere in between. Scoring, and I have that divided up, and I will send that in an email later today, so you know your teams. Those will be due no later than January 31st. That date was set for our last meeting, but since it got postponed, that's just a short time, but you only have 3 to 4 advisory panelists to score. The department will be scoring the page, and the last page has 1 for the commission. And then the department scores the others, and that would be Heather and Candy, and they have the task, and they are the experts in that field. So they will be scoring the last 2, what you see in green, and then the commission is scoring the ones in yellow. And that will let us know who the panelists are, and when we get the scores in, that will be something we vote on at the next meeting on who we hire.
Are there any questions about the scoring rubric? I know if you are new to the commission, you may have some questions that you want to refer back to Ms. Houston for clarification, and that's okay. It's just that this is scored by both the commission members and the department, the department doing the content expert material, and then we are looking at the applications for the other information that is based on the rubric.
Hey, Dr. Cash, I have a question.
Yes, Billy.
Unless I'm misreading it, it looks like there's only 13 applicants. Is that a
Billy,
sufficient
can you
number?
speak up a little louder? I can't hear you.
Yeah. I was going to say, it looks like we've only got 13 applicants. Is that a sufficient number?
Billy,
For
it
C-
is, they have several things that there's several subjects that they are certified to score in, and we don't have as many materials or as many publishers, and so it's a sufficient amount.
And in that, Lee, for clarification, in the scoring of the rubric, if we'll allow for a margin of error in the collective score and would have a second member that had not looked at those scores if there is if there need be for another member of our commission to look at that for a tiebreaker or anything like that.
That is
Sometimes
correct.
sometimes there's a discrepancy in the numbers, and that would be the second scorer that would do that to let us know where we were going with that.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have a question. Chairman Cash?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to readdress this scoring rubric. We talked about this before, that the way this rubric is set up, it basically will disqualify someone with experience. And we ran this with math. We lost the opportunity to have a great person who was a mathematician who had never served on committees before. Basically, he couldn't get a high enough score because he hadn't. And I think we need to add another score in order to make sure we don't lose experts in the field just because they've never served on a committee before. I personally don't think that serving on a committee makes any difference. I think the qualification of the applicant is the most important, and are they able? And like I said, we lost someone before, so I'd like to discuss how we can address this issue with this rubric.
Ms. Cordova-Moore, I think we did address that. If you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, question 5, it says describe what specific knowledge in that rubric that your expertise may have in this field. And so if there is someone who has exceptional knowledge, they would possibly score even, that would be where that would bring that in. I do believe we made that change. And then we also added the one about the credentials. So if they have high enough credentials, they would score higher as well. And so if you look, the applicant does not provide concrete reasons why they want to serve. The applicant has not served on a district committee. We are all professionals. So if it says district and they are in a business or industry, they would clarify that for us in their application. So if anybody else wants to make any suggestions, I knew we had changed those two to try to balance that out. But we are looking at textbooks for education. So we hope they do have some background in education, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector or business, something in that neighborhood.
So you're
And
saying,
then if you look down to where this is the best part about CTE, in my opinion, is that when the department actually scores, a lot of our CTE pieces are asking for information that's in the field. But I am open to anyone having discussions if you look at this rubric and you want to suggest changes. Ms. Cordoza Moore, does that kind of help you just a little bit to know, even though the applicant has not served on a district level committee, the applicant has not served on a state level committee. When we say state level, if you're looking at the private sector, you would hope they had served in some capacity, even if it's in the general business sector.
Yes. Okay, so I see number 5. Yeah, I reviewed it, and yes, this would be satisfactory.
Laura, could you speak up just a little bit? I had a hard time hearing you.
Yes, I just saw number 5 and just reviewed it. And yes, this addresses the issue.
Okay, so does that satisfy you at this point, or would you like more discussion?
No, that satisfies me unless there's someone else who wants to share their thoughts.
Anyone else have any other thoughts in relation to the rubric?
My goal is to make sure that we don't pass over educators that are already in the field, who are experts in their field.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. And that's why we do have multiple reviewers also. And if one is high or one is low, then we would, depending on the number of people review, usually it's 3 or more that review, we would have someone else actually review it to get another score for us to review.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyone else have any suggestions about the rubric?
Hey, Dr. Cash, I have another question. Can you review for us the scores that would be necessary to be considered passing?
I'm
what
going to
range
flip
of
that
scores?
back to Lee, because we have typically said that, of course, we have to follow Tennessee law as far as the law is concerned with relevant content and information. But we have also said they had to have 100% of the standards. So we have been looking at 80% as a passing score. Is there any suggestion to change that?
So let me clarify the question. I meant passing for our panelists instead of the materials.
So, and Lee, you can jump in here. So you would total all of the possible points, and those possible points we would take into that 80% on the rubric. So they would have to score at least that 80%. Thank you, Billy. Any other questions? Just for relevance, I would not be a panelist that would pass this on the CTE because I don't have enough background knowledge. So I think this is set up for us to really look for those true content specialists. Any other questions related to the rubric? Very good questions. Very good questions. Okay, we are, with no other questions or concerns, we're moving to item 6. In item 6, it is the schedule for CTE Wellness Advisory Panelist Training, and we're going to turn that over to Candy Collier, the Senior CTE Director and Special Projects of Tennessee Department of Education, Ms. Heather Pierges, I probably did not do that right, PE and PA Manager, Tennessee Department of Education.
Yes, good morning. I'm Candy Collier, the Senior Director of CTE. Thank you for your time today. Just a couple of items to talk about. In 25-26, we will have under the CTE umbrella 14 career clusters. This particular review process looks at 2 of those career clusters, information technology and advanced manufacturing. Under those, we have 5 rubrics, and those are coupled together with like skills. So there are more programs of study under each of those career clusters. However, the skills are similar. For example, in information technology, our coding, web design, and data science are all under the same rubric because the skills are similar, and it is expected that one reviewer could have the technical background to understand all of those materials that are available. So essentially what we'll do during our training time is go through those rubrics and take a look at the different standards and what the examples of partially there versus fully supported in the materials look like. We will use hypothetical examples for those so that the reviewers can see what that looks like. Mainly the rubrics hold those standards, and if you have those in front of you, Hayden, I don't know if you have an example of one of the rubrics that we can look at. But the last tables from 4 on are all course standards. And so each of the standards is covered in these rubrics. So table 1 that we're looking at now is instructional focus. And that is to make sure that we're aligned to grade level and that we're using current industry practices. Sometimes we find in materials that college and university textbooks are sent to be reviewed, and those materials do not engage our students. So we want to make sure that there's graphs and charts that keep our students engaged and that those practices are on grade level with career exploration there as well. Moving on to table 2. Attending to skill development, CTE prides itself on making sure that we have hands-on activities as well. Safety is one of our biggest concerns for most of our CTE programs. Safety is the first thing that is covered in a course. So we want to make sure that those safety practices are written into our curriculum and materials, as well as proper equipment and tool usage. We also have a big focus on performance-based tasks. It is rare that you will find a CTE classroom where everyone sits at a desk the entire period, so we want to make sure those tasks are written in, especially for our new teachers coming from industry who may not have the educational background and need some ideas for how to do a performance-based task in the CTE classroom. And then also a nod to developing employability skills in technology. The third table there is accessibility features, and I believe you might remember those from the math and science rubrics as well, making sure that they're in digital form and that the lessons have supports for students with disability and English language learners. From there, table 4 forward are the standards. Each table represents one course in a program of study under those program of study areas. And it's just a very simple, is there material enough there to cover that standard? Is it there but not covered to proficiency? And a number 2 is that covered to proficiency? The evidence column is where we ask for page numbers, where you found that, how you can back that up and justify it. So that is the rubric. The other ones are the same format, just with the different standards for those courses that are covered under that rubric. And this is what we will use to train our panelists. Are there any questions?
For Cash, can I say something, please?
Sorry, yes. Lee,
At one, yes.
there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, Billy, I think this is where you were talking about at one point, where we have to have 100% of the standards. So that's table 4, and then 80% of the other tables have to be met as well. And so the advisory panelists, this is what they score: 100% of the standards, 80% of everything else.
Are there any other questions for Candy related to the scoring material scoring rubric? Thank you, Candy. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to item number 7. That's the library appeals form and library guidance document updates, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Hayden Shadden.
Actually, if I may, I think we need to go back, and Heather needs to discuss PE.
Did Heather have
health
more?
Education.
Oh, health
I
education.
do.
Thank
Yes,
you. I'm sorry.
I do. If I could just have just a few minutes, I appreciate it. Hayden, if you don't mind pulling up that rubric, this won't take quite as much time. I do not envy the number of standards that Candy has included, but it'll be much more efficient because we're using the same rubric. We've streamlined this process and definitely appreciate the materials that are provided and available that we've modeled after math and science. So our table 1 instructional focus for health education, the course title is Lifetime Wellness. That is our graduation requirement. We're going to be focusing in our training on a few items here, placing an emphasis on those that are particular to health education. Those include the focus on protective factors, skills-based approach, and developmental appropriateness. Obviously wanting to make sure that everything is research-based as well, but those that are a particular emphasis on how we'd like our health education instruction to go. Table 2 and Table 3, again, should look very familiar. The Table 2 in particular, compliance with relevant health education laws, we need to make sure that we have an emphasis here. I think what we're seeing in the sample was from the scoring unit. We know that the sample that was provided didn't relate to those particular laws, but in the rubric that's being used on the textbook material provided, those scoring boxes and evidence boxes will be blank so that they can be scored appropriately. Accessibility features are also the same, but I do wanted to place a little emphasis here just and provide an opportunity for discussion and questions, especially for section 4, table 4, where we address the alignment of content. I did want to make sure that the commission knew the standards that were most recently revised and approved by State Board in November 2024 are included on this alignment. So they were revised and approved late November. We included them in this table so that once we get through the revision process and the textbooks are adopted and districts have time to go ahead and choose their materials, these all new standards will go into effect the same time that they'll be using their textbooks. So we'll make sure that all the new ones are included. New standards were added to address any legislative requirements that gone into place between the last textbook adoption and now. So we've included additional standards. The revision committees also included other new standards that they felt were relevant through that process, but we did want to make sure that everyone knew recent laws that have been added for related to human trafficking, internet safety, adoption instructional requirements, all of those that relate to family life and health instruction are included in this rubric. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share that with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just a comment, not really a question, but I see where it has the fitness goals and setting SMART goals, construct fitness goals and SMART goals. I think that is an addition that will be powerful for, especially for my high schoolers and my upper elementary, middle and upper. So I appreciate that one being in there. Any other questions related to the wellness rubric?
Dr. Cash, I've got one question just for clarification.
Yes, Billy.
Okay, so a score of 1 indicates that the standard is present, and a score of 2 indicates that it's fully met. So when we're talking about all standards being present, a score of 1 is sufficient. Is there a requirement of how many would have to be scored at 2?
There is not. Again, this would be where you're looking for that 80%. So and you may want to take over with this one in this, but in health and wellness, identify the ratio between healthy eating and total wellness. It's not like a die-hard standard like in math or language arts or anything. It's kind of broad. So you're looking at how well it covers the content. Does it fully cover the content? But these are more, a lot of these are more content related rather than just, they're broader than what we typically see in the regular education programs. Like I look at implement the health related and skill related components of fitness. Well, they could be implementing it, but what level are they pushing to implement it? So I look at this a little differently than I do the other rubrics. You know, when it goes down to identify and explain signs, symptoms, screenings, treatment, and prevention, that would be one. It's either there or it's not. So but some of these are a little broader, and I will actually defer back to Heather for any other explanation on that one.
Sure, it's my pleasure. And actually, I think it may even be a little more helpful to scroll down past this first page and look at quite literally any other standard, because lifetime wellness as a health education course is meant to be spent the vast majority of that instructional time in a traditional classroom. This is health education content, not physical education instruction. So that very small handful of personal fitness-based standards that are there at the top, simply because of the traditional sequencing that we have through all of our K-12 standards, are not the majority. So the ones that we see on the screen here, and that you can access in your personal files, might be a little easier to relate to, but there are some that are certainly more concrete than others. But the broadness of the phrasing of some of these standards are meant for twofold, for both a bit of autonomy for the teachers to meet the students based on their personal community needs, as well as knowing health education requirements, legislative that is, changes on a very, very frequent basis. But we're only doing our standard revision every 4 years. And so what can be helpful with designing the standards to be somewhat broad, certain ones at least, is helpful for students to meet new annual requirements with the way the current standards are written, knowing that we are now on a 4-year cycle. Actually, every 4 years, we will add a standard if it's urgent and relevant, and we're not able to fully meet a new requirement based on the way the standard's written. So,
And pointing out that your adoption cycle is now is now brought out even double that. So so the way theirs are worded, and I'm paraphrasing, you could make changes to this and add the standard to be included with the way these are, with the content, the way these are written. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will now move on to item 7, library appeals form and guidance document updates. Going back to Mr. Hayden Shadden.
Good morning, everyone. I had a couple changes or suggestions to the library material appeals request form, and then also the library guidance document. The first document we're going to go over is the library material appeals request form. This is the form that should somebody want to submit an appeal to the commission, they will use this online form. There are 2 changes, and they're highlighted in yellow here. One was to add an email requirement, and then also a phone requirement. Previously on this form, it had an address, but it didn't have a way for us to communicate via telephone or through email. And so I added those 2 requirements, and that's the only suggested changes to this document. Does anybody have a question about this document in general, or do you have a question about the 2 suggestions to change and add?
Oh, looks good.
All right. So now we're going to go to the library guidance document, and same thing with the other one. All of the suggested changes are highlighted in yellow. Here towards, I believe it's on the 4th page, what I did here was I broke down, when you're looking at section D of the library guidance document, it's all dedicated to the textbook commission process for hearing appeals. And what I did here was I broke the statute down, so 49.6.2201. I broke it down and I put, yes, how someone can submit appeal if material that's contained in a library collection is not appropriate. But also I broke it down and tracked with the statute that somebody can also make a direct appeal to the commission if a district has not made a determination within 60 days after they received the initial complaint. And so I broke that down because we've had some districts that are active and looking at this document, and I just broke it down for clarification as well. On D1, You will also see D1-2. I've broken it down as well to state when someone can make an appeal to the commission if after 60 days the district has not made a determination. So that's also, all of those are for clarification. You'll see here that we have a new address, and I'm going to discuss that in a little bit, a new website address. But what I say the biggest change to this document is on the very last page, how someone can withdraw an appeal that they have previously made with the commission. And so this is a suggestion. Does anyone have any questions about this clause in the document, or a suggestion?
Hayden, have you had this happen? Have people put in an appeal and then withdrawn?
We have, Dr. Hickey.
Okay.
And that's the primary purpose behind putting
Okay.
this in writing. So, any other questions about the library guidance document or these suggested changes?
I have a question, Hayden or Dr. Cash, if that's okay. Just to clarify, on the page that says submitting an appeal, and then E, failure to follow. Well, that's not the one I'm looking at. One of them says that, my question is, if somebody appeals an LEA's decision, the LEA has to have followed the textbook commission's guidance. Is that right?
That would be
Hold on a
correct.
second.
And so that would be the
Okay.
first 4 pages of the document.
Okay, so if the LEA did not follow the process on their end that the textbook commission created, the guidance created, and did something different, then that would not qualify for an appeal unless it was the 60 days.
In my mind, yes.
Okay.
And
That
so
was mine too. I just wanted to make sure.
I will remind the commission. The commission does have jurisdiction over the LEA process, and so the statute says that the commission is responsible for making a guideline. And so, if by chance, and this document does not state currently, if an LEA fails to abide by this document, what might happen. And so that's up to the commission, if the commission would like to add that, change that. Ms. Cardozo-Moore?
Yes, please. Thank you. Dr. Cash, I have, in reading this description about the 60 days, it only covers, and Hayden, maybe you can confirm this, but my concern is that if the parent does not believe that their concerns from their LEA were adequately addressed, what is the recourse? Is it only 60 days if the LEA failed to report or go through the process stated by law? Is that the only reason why it can be appealed to us?
Correct, and that's straight from the statute.
Dr. Cash, aren't there several reasons they can appeal? They can appeal the decision within 5 days if they don't like. Is that the question you're asking?
Yes.
Ms.
So Laura,
Cardozo-Moore?
I think what has happened, and thank you, Katie, if they do appeal and the LEA follows everything and they do not like the answer that they received, they can file an appeal with us within 5 days. But if the LEA does nothing, and they haven't looked at it or made a decision in 60 days, that gives them another way to appeal. Prior to that, it was if the LEA didn't do anything, there was no room for them to appeal. This just adds a second step for them to appeal. So if someone appeals and they don't like the decision, they can file with us within 5 days. Or if they haven't heard anything, they have to file with the LEA. And if the LEA doesn't comply or start anything within 60 days, at that point, they can appeal to us as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Correct.
welcome.
And I just want to point out, so the first paragraph on D is stating that somebody can appeal a decision to the commission as soon as that LEA has made whatever decision it is, whether to keep material or remove material. As soon as a determination is made by the LEA, within 5 days of that determination, someone can submit an appeal to the commission. And then the second, which is highlighted here, the second paragraph, and then also down here, the second avenue for someone to submit an appeal is if they have made a reconsideration request with the LEA and 60 days has went by and the LEA has made no determination. Then after the 60th day, the 5-day period starts and they can submit that appeal to the commission. So it's a two-way avenue that someone can submit an appeal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions on the library guidance document? All right. I do want to take this time while I've got you guys on the screen. I do want to point out that the Textbook Commission has a new website. So thank you to the Department of Education and the IT staff at the department for creating this website. This website contains up-to-date information as it relates to the commission and the commission's work. And so everything on here is relatively new. And I will note that the website address has changed. And so the new website address for the Textbook Commission is tn.gov/textbook-commission. And so we have tried to share that website update with multiple people, just because this website does contain the up-to-date information. So, and you'll see up at the top, and Mr. Mike Bell has requested this the past 2 meetings, and hopefully he'll watch this meeting. But we do have a tab up at the top for library material information. And so this is directly on the home page, so that any LEA or any individual that has questions can click that, and then it has all of the relevant documents as it pertains to the commission's jurisdiction with materials. Okay. Does anybody have questions about the website?
I just want to say a big thank you to Hayden, especially, and Kendra for the help on getting that website up and rolling and working with the department. It was very antiquated, and we are current now, and I appreciate that.
Dr. Cash, you're muted. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Cash.
We are going to move into our regular scheduled agenda and closing out our workshop. So I will start with reading our statement of necessity. This is Dr. Linda Cash. In accordance with TCA .8-4-108, this special called meeting of the Tennessee Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission is being held virtually via Microsoft Teams at 10 a.m. Central Time, January the 10th, 2025. The necessity for this virtual meeting is due to the severe weather that is taking place across the state of Tennessee, which has impeded the travel for a majority of commission members from attending in person. TCA 49-6-2201K allows the commission to call special called meetings when needed. In this case, the commission has called a special called meeting to discuss the start of the upcoming textbook adoption cycle and to hold various votes on time-sensitive matters as it pertains to the adoption cycle. Notice of this meeting was posted on the commission website along with the agenda and live streaming link for the public access in accordance with TCA 8-44-101 and TCA 49-6-2201K. So as we move into our agenda, I welcome everyone again to this special called meeting. And we will start with our call to order. And we are now open, and I need a roll call, please.
Dr. Linda Cash,
Here.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Here.
Mr. William Bryan,
Here.
Mr. Mike Bell, Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Here.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Here.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Here.
Mr. Daniel French, Dr. Cherry Robertson,
Here.
Dr. Christy Wall.
Here.
Thank you. And we will move into the introduction of commission members. I will start with Dr. Christy Wall.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Christy Wall, Assistant Commissioner of Academics and Instruction at the Department of Education, representing the Commissioner.
Thank you. Dr. Sherry Robertson.
Dr. Cherry Robertson, representing Lebanon, Tennessee, appointed by Governor Lee.
Dr. Kathy Hickey.
Kathy Hickey, representing East Tennessee, appointed by Speaker Sexton.
Mr. Daniel Finch, who is absent. Dr. Rebecca Farley. Ms. Laura Cardoza Moore.
Lori Cardoza Moore, appointed by Speaker Sexton to represent parents and citizens in Middle Tennessee.
Ms. Katie Capshaw.
Katie Capshaw, librarian, appointed by the Lieutenant Governor.
Mr. William Bryan. Sorry, Billy.
Hi, I'm William Bryan. I'm a high school teacher in West Tennessee at Milliken Central High School, and I was appointed to the commission by Governor Lee.
Mr. Mike Bell, who is absent today. Miss Becky Atkinson.
Becky Atkinson, Public School Librarian, appointed by Speaker Sexton.
Dr. Linda Cash, Director of Schools for Bradley County and appointed by Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, everyone. At this time, we'll have a consent item voice vote for the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I
Second,
have a second?
second the emotion.
Do I have a voice vote? All of those in favor say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed say nay. No nays, so the item carries for the adoption of the agenda. Our action item number 3, we have the approval of the minutes for our October 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
We have a second. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
A.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Hey.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Ms. Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to action item B, approval of the Schedule E, CTE, and Wellness Adoption Timeline with the date changes. Could I have a motion to approve the Schedule E, CTE timeline change?
Motion to approve the new timeline.
Do I have a second?
Second to
Second.
approve.
We have a second. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Ms. Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, approval of schedule CTE Wellness Advisory Panelist application questions and scoring rubrics. I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the rubric.
Do I have a second?
Second to approve.
We have a second to approve. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Miss Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Miss Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, approval of schedule CTE, and wellness scoring rubrics. Do I have a motion to approve the wellness scoring rubrics?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Miss Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Miss Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item E, approval of library appeals form update. Do I have a motion to approve the library appeals form update?
Motion to approve the changes to the form.
Do I have a second?
Yes. Second to approve the changes.
Have a motion and a second to approve the library forms update. Would you do a roll call, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Miss Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Miss Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And do we have, that was approval of the library guidance document update is next, item I'm sorry, item F. I'm lost. Are we on item F, Hayden?
We are on item F.
Okay. Item F, approval of the library guidance document update. These were the updates that Hayden made for clarification. Do I have a motion to approve the library guidance document update?
Motion to approve the changes to the document.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I
to
second the
approve.
motion.
We have a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Linda Cash,
Yes.
Miss Becky Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. William Billy Bryan,
Yes.
Miss Katie Capshaw,
Yes.
Miss Lori Cardoza Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rebecca Farley, Dr. Kathy Hickey,
Yes.
Dr. Cherry Robertson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Looking at item G, library materials appeal, that's a standing item, and we have no appeals on the docket for this meeting. Item number 4, commission meeting dates. There will be a regularly scheduled meeting on March 13th, 2025. There will be a special called meeting on July 30th, 2025. We ask you to hold that for your calendar. And then there will be a regularly scheduled meeting on September the 12th, 2025. If anybody has concerns with those dates, please email Ms. Houston and she will work with that. Do we have a request for any public comments? I haven't seen any.
There are none.
Okay, we have no request for public comments. Do we have other business from the commission that you would like to discuss?
Mr. Cash, we do have a new employee.
Oh, yes, yes, would you please introduce her?
Yes. We have a new executive assistant and her name is Kendra Hayes. And Kendra, if you'd like to say anything in your introduction, feel free to go ahead.
Very excited to be working with the commission and I look forward to everything ahead.
So when you start getting emails, I think you've already gotten some from Kendra. Now you have a face to go with the name.
We are glad to have you aboard to basically keep us straight. We appreciate that. Are
you
there
very
any
much.
other business for this commission at this time? I hope you have a very safe weekend. I'm glad it's warming up. I do not do well with the cold, as I'm sure none of you do either. So thank you again for attending this meeting and for those who organized it to get it started for us. And with no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so very much.
Bye. Thank you, Dr. Cash.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Cash.